My name is Enrico Capucci. I'm Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. On my left is Mr. Wilson, and on my right is Ms. Haas. Present for this hearing this evening are Chief Goulden and Councilor, again, your name?
Michael Akerson.
Mr. Akerson, and for the town, representing the town.
Tim Zustin, Town Council for the Town of Shirley.
And also present at the board is our town administrator, Mrs. Garvin. With that, I will begin by asking our town council to begin the process here. But before I say that, we have a long hearing, and everybody at this table, including Chief Goulden, is entitled to his say. Everybody will have be represented by counsel, and we'll ask everybody in the room to please be quiet. There are so many people so that we can hear what's going on, and all of the people in the audience can hear what's going on. So we don't want to have anybody that feels they need to step up and participate. This is not an open hearing for the public, but rather for the chief at the chief's request. So with that, I will say that we will now begin the meeting. Councilor, if you will.
Yes.
Oh, which councilor, me?
No, town council.
Oh, I have a preliminary matter which I think might help.
All right.
Move matters along.
Sure. Council?
That's fine. You can recognize council and allow them to speak.
Okay.
Spoke with council last Friday
Yes.
late in the day.
Yes.
Regarding the propriety of this hearing. Inasmuch,
In order, you need to be near the mic, or the one they're standing up to.
Either one.
I'll speak.
Okay.
I spoke with Attorney Zessin Friday afternoon regarding this matter. Chief received notice of this hearing to come here tonight, Friday at 11:40 a.m. To be here, and well, he's here now. I'm going to echo the same objections I made with Attorney Zessin was with relation to our presence here today. Chief's contract, his current contract that he has, indicates that he's entitled to 30 business days notice prior to the holding of any hearing. Now, given that fact, Friday of last week till today, that would be 2, not 30. So, having said all that, I think it's only proper and appropriate that we do continue this until July 17th at the earliest, which is the 30 days.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Attorney Akerson is correct. We did have a phone call last week, Thursday or Friday, to discuss this matter of the proper notice due to Chief Goulden. It's the town's position, and I'm fairly confident in this position, that his current contract, which runs from, I believe it's September 1, 2014 to August 31, 2017, remains in full force and effect. Now, we're fully aware that there's a second contract, a subsequent contract that was entered into between the Board of Selectmen and Chief Goulden. That contract begins running July 1, 2017. It's not in effect right now. None of the terms are in effect. The notice provision is not in effect. The salary and other benefit provisions are not in effect. Therefore, it's my position that the current contract, the 2014 to 2017 contract, remains in effect. And as Attorney Akerson knows, the current contract does not contain a 30-day requirement as the new contract does.
We're using words current and new. The most current contract was signed last August.
It is, yes.
That's what I was referencing.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that today's date is June 6, 2017, and June 6, 2017 is before July 1, 2017. It doesn't matter when the parties sign the agreement, it doesn't go into effect until July 1, 2017, in my opinion.
Right. I agree. Any comments from the board on that? Mr. Wilson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I feel, in the interest of due process, 2 business days is not enough time to mount a satisfactory defense, considering the gravity of what is going on in this scenario. I would move that we grant the chief a 2-week extension, at least to prepare defense, he's only had the report for 2 business days. His counsel has only had the report for 2 business days. I think in the interest of due process, there should be some time to review it and able to answer questions and come up with responses to what was in that investigative report.
Ms. House?
This has been an ongoing issue since February. There has been, notice was given throughout the interview. He understood what he was being interviewed for throughout the whole process. It is his interview here. I would like to move forward.
Do you have a motion also?
I don't have a motion. I don't think a
No,
motion
but-
was made.
Did you have a motion?
Yes, I have a motion, Mr. Chairman, that I would like to grant the chief a 2-week extension for this hearing.
You vote, Ms. House?
Well, I haven't seconded the motion yet,
all right.
but I will second the motion just to put it forward.
In that case, your vote?
Aye.
I vote no.
I vote no.
Counsel?
Okay. Just Attorney Akerson, do you have another issue you'd like to address?
Preliminary issue again.
Okay.
It's not the substance as to who said what to who, when, where, how. It's preliminary. It's with relation to the propriety of a member of the board to sit in this forum and to make decisions and to participate.
Yes.
I'm speaking with relation to you, Mr. Capucci.
Yes.
I think I need to put this on the record. As you know, Chief Goulden's been chief since September of 2014.
Yes.
From that point till now, a sergeant of the Shirley Police Department was suspended, subsequently demoted, and then discharged.
Yes.
That's been in the news. Those 3 actions were based in large part by the chief of police, his investigation or his recommendation to the board
Yes.
of selectmen, who ultimately made that decision. That same sergeant I'm speaking of, who was terminated by the Board of Selectmen here in town, has a very familiar relationship with you. And that familiarity of that relationship with you, in essence, disqualifies you from being part and parcel of a decision-making process here where the chief took actions against that same sergeant. For example, there are a few things that I'd like to point out, which I think to inform the board and also council with relation to some of the issues here. One is, I do know, and that on numerous occasions, you've indicated that former Sergeant Cromwell is like a daughter to you and your wife. And then she in turn has said on numerous occasions the opposite, that you're like a parent to her. As part of that relationship, she frequently stayed overnight at your house, sleeping there when she worked the 3P to 11P shift, would stay overnight at your house. On numerous occasions, she would be at your house as well, and park a cruiser at your house and come over for dinner. A couple other things I think are important to point out here. One issue that Sergeant Cromwell had said, this is within the police station, that she didn't like working the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift because that disrupted you and your house situation because you couldn't sleep until she got home. Numerous occasions, visitors to the house, that is your house, Mr. Capucci, have been there and they've seen Ms. Cromwell at your house wearing sleepwear or pajama wear.
You're starting to cross the line here, Counselor. Just keep that in mind.
I'm not
Okay.
saying, I'm
You're
saying.
crossing a line here.
I'm stating the fact.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting
Oh,
anything
yes, you are.
untoward. I'm simply
No, you
saying
are. You
she
are.
was there with
You are.
pajama wear.
You are.
Part and parcel of the relationship as well, sir, was as to your situation in that, as I understand it, you and your wife, to accommodate Sergeant Cromwell, you purchased a bedroom set for her.
Incorrect again, but go ahead.
And as part of what I was talking about earlier in terms of your relationship with her, extensive socializing with her, both breakfast, dinner while on shifts, going away to Aruba for a week's vacation, you, your wife, and Sergeant Cromwell and a friend of hers. And occasions where gifts were given back and forth between you and the sergeant. And this is with relation to the chief. The information that I have is that you had advocated for her to get the chief's of police job in 2014. prior to Chief Goulden. Then when Sergeant Cromwell was not put forward, her name was not put forward for the interview process for the chief's position in 2014. On that occasion, you were extremely upset.
Incorrect again, but keep going. Oh, let me stop.
The chief, Goulden got the job, and you were extremely angry about that fact.
That's incorrect, too.
You've told many people in town that you're going to fire.
Okay, I'm
Chief
going to
Goulden.
stop you at this. I'll tell you why. I'm not on the trial here.
I understand that.
Nobody's on trial. We're just here for a hearing. So I'm going to stop you at that. Because you're getting into personal things that are untrue, you're making accusations that are not true, and you're subjecting yourself to further review here because you're absolutely defaming me in front of all of these people about things I've never done. So I'd be very careful as you continue, but I think we should move on, Counsel.
Well, I haven't even made my request yet.
What is your request?
Given all of this and more, if I can continue, you cannot sit fair-minded, open-minded, and unbiased in this proceeding to make a determination as to Chief Goulden.
Well, I'm going to sit.
So I'm going to ask you to recuse yourself
Yeah,
from this proceeding.
I am not going to recuse myself, and I have been asked on numerous occasions by the chief to recuse myself, whether he's hiring someone or whether he's having the hearing. So I'm not going to recuse myself. It's normal for the chief to do that. It's on the record. It's happened many times, and I'm not going to recuse myself. So if you want to have a seat, we'll begin the process. And I thank you.
I just want that noted.
We know it. I know it. Believe me, I know it.
Are there any more preliminary matters?
No, this is the board. All set?
I'm just asking, you've already raised two.
Yes,
Are there any?
no, all set.
Okay. So getting into the substance here, I'm going to provide some brief background information for the board. Mr. Goulden was initially appointed by the Board of Selectmen in 2014 for a 3-year term. That initial contract, as I noted in my initial remarks, ran from September 1, 2014 to August 31, 2017. I'm going to provide everyone with a copy of that record and have it, or copy of that contract, and have it entered into the record this evening. We'll have this marked as exhibit number 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just so it's abundantly clear in the record, this contract, it's our position that it remains in effect. It's valid until August 31, 2017. It outlines the general terms and conditions of Chief Goulden's employment, including a provision that he shall not be disciplined or discharged without just cause. That's contained in section G4, letter A. Uh, 3 years into Mr. Goulden's term as the chief of police, the board voted to place him on paid administrative leave pending the outcome of an internal investigation into allegations that he violated certain rules of the department. Just for the completeness of the record, I'm going to provide everybody with a copy of the notice of administrative leave, which is dated February 28, 2017. It'll be exhibit number 2. I apologize for all the paper here, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Mr. Goulden has remained on paid administrative leave since that date, since February 28, 2017. After that date, the Board of Selectmen engaged investigator Paul White, former state police trooper, to investigate 7 separate allegations of misconduct against Chief Goulden. Those allegations are contained in what's a document labeled Scope of Investigation that I'll mark as Exhibit Number 3. I'm not going to go through these allegation by allegation. The document speaks for itself, and I believe everybody is aware of the allegations. My apologies. It looks like I made a mistake in printing out this document. This copy that I provided you only has 5 of the charges. That's an error. I will provide it. I think.
Not a problem.
Attorney Akerson, you have the full version.
I could see that's 1 to 5 and there are 2 more charges.
Yeah, okay, I apologize for that error, but we'll replace that after the hearing is concluded. During the course of his investigation, Mr. Paul White interviewed a number of town employees and other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the investigation and the allegations against Chief Goulden. On or about May 30th, 2017, Mr. White issued his report to the Board of Selectmen, and a copy of that report will be marked as Exhibit Number 4 for the record. Based on the findings of Mr. White's report, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Capucci, sent Chief Goulden a notice of the board's intent to convene an executive session to discuss Mr. White's finding and the potential disciplinary action against him based on the allegations of the police department's conduct and discipline manual. I'll refer to the manual as just the department's manual from here on out. I'll provide a copy of the notice. We'll mark that as Exhibit Number 5. As Mr. Akerson noted in his preliminary remarks, the notice is dated June 2nd, 2017. That is the date that it was delivered to Chief Goulden at his home. The notice, as you'll see, informed Chief Goulden that the purpose of the executive session was to hold a hearing to determine whether there was just cause to impose disciplinary action against the chief. The chief was notified that the board would hear evidence that he ordered a subordinate employee, David Lange, to take photographs of a recall petition at a local hardware store in and around September 2016. It is alleged that this was in violation of Section 4.1, Conduct Unbecoming an Officer, and 4.12, Political Activities of the Department's Conduct Manual. The second piece of that notice, the chief was notified that the board would hear evidence that he improperly allowed a dispatcher, Paul Topolsky, to carry a firearm in a town building in violation of the town's workplace violence policy. Based on these allegations, it's alleged that the chief violated Section 5.0, neglect of duty, and Section 5.2, incompetence of the department's manual. So now, I'd like to, as everybody knows, Paul White, with respect to the allegation that that Chief Goulden directed a subordinate employee to take a photograph of the recall petition. The indisputable evidence as found by Mr. White shows that Chief Goulden in fact admits that he directed Officer Lange to take the photographs of the recall petition, which was located at the local hardware store. Chief Goulden advised Mr. White during the interview that he was asked to do this by two former members of the Board of Selectmen. That version of events is consistent with the version provided by Officer Lange, who's now a former employee of the town. Mr. Lange testified during his interview that Chief Goulden asked him to go to the hardware store to take a photograph of the recall petition. Chief Goulden's defense is that it was not a direct order, but rather a favor or a suggestion. Mr. White essentially rejected this defense, arguing that it was highly inappropriate for Chief Goulden to ask, whether it was a direct order or not, to ask a subordinate employee to get involved in a dispute such as this. According to Mr. White, it is my finding that Chief Goulden used very poor judgment in this matter on several levels. First, Chief Goulden is an experienced law enforcement professional with significant tenure through his experiences in several law enforcement organizations. As such, he should have realized that his position of authority carries with it responsibility to remain neutral in political matters, especially in a town as small as Shirley. He is a recognized town official due to his position as chief of police. Mr. White continues to discuss how this was inappropriate for Chief Goulden to request an employee in Mr. Lange's position to take the photographs. Essentially, it left the subordinate officer with no ability to reject the request. So in fact, Mr. Lange went to the hardware store and took the photographs. The photographs were then forwarded to Chief Goulden, who then forwarded to the two former select board members who had requested photographs. It is the town's position that this violated two sections of the department's policy manual, and I'll pass that out so everyone has a copy. This will be marked as exhibit number 6.
Thanks.
So it's the town's position that this, the conduct by Chief Goulden in September of 2016 violates section 4.1, conduct unbecoming, as well as section 4.12, political activities. That section reads, officers shall not participate in political activities while in uniform or on duty. All actions which could even give the impression that officers are using their official positions to influence the electoral process are to be avoided. An officer shall not be required to solicit or be obliged to make contributions in money, services, or otherwise for any political purpose. As I've mentioned before, there's essentially no factual disputes on this allegation. The chief effectively admits that he directed Officer Lange to take the photographs based on the request from the two select board members. And it's our position, or it's my position, that this violates the 2 section of the department manual. The second allegation in Mr. White's report that was contained in the notice of executive session that was sent to Chief Goulden is the allegation concerning the carrying of a firearm by Mr. Topolsky. Mr. Topolsky is at the time, and currently still is, a dispatcher in town. He also was a officer in a neighboring town. He had a license to carry a Class A firearm and was authorized to carry that in his duties as a law enforcement officer in the neighboring town. However, it's our position that he was not authorized to carry that firearm as a dispatcher for the town of Shirley. As a basis for that allegation, we cite to the town's workplace violence policy. That policy, which I'll have marked as exhibit number 7, was passed in December of 2013. I'm providing everybody with a copy now. That's exhibit number 7. This policy, as I said, was enacted by the Board of Selectmen in December 2013, approximately 6 months before Chief Goulden was appointed as the police chief in town. This policy makes it entirely clear that only law enforcement officers are allowed to carry firearms in town buildings. We understand that Mr. Topolsky was licensed to carry the firearm and had a legal right to do it, but it was in violation of the town policy, which we allege Chief Goulden should have been aware of. It's Chief Goulden's position that he was not aware of the policy and did not learn of it until after he was placed on paid administrative leave. However, we feel the evidence will show that he, in fact, knew or should have known that Dispatcher Topolsky was carrying a firearm in a concealed manner while on duty for a significant period of time, and also that he should have known that the policy was in place. To provide a little bit more context on this issue, I'd like to call Acting Chief Santiago to provide some testimony. Did he step out?
He's right here.
Oh, there he is. You can pull up a chair.
There are no chairs.
If you want to stand,
yeah, I can
that's
stand.
fine. All right, can you please state your name for the record?
It's Samuel Santiago.
And what is your current position?
I'm the acting chief for the town of Shirley.
And how long have you held that position?
Approximately just over 3 months now.
Okay, and what position did you hold before that?
Sergeant.
And how long have you been employed by the police department in total?
Almost 14 years. I've been a sergeant for almost 6.5.
Okay, and are you familiar with Paul Topolsky?
Yes.
Who is Mr. Topolsky?
He's our dispatch supervisor.
And how long has Mr. Topolsky been employed as a dispatcher?
I want to say 4 or 5 years altogether. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know the date of appointment.
Okay, and has he held any position other than dispatcher?
With the town of Shirley?
With the town of Shirley, sorry.
No, just as a dispatcher.
Okay, and are you familiar, do you know whether he was employed by another law enforcement agency?
Yes, I believe he worked at Mount Wachusett Community College as a campus police officer.
Okay. At some point, did you learn that Mr. Topolsky was carrying a concealed firearm?
Yes.
And approximately when did you notice that?
I walked into dispatch as a small area. I noticed he had a concealed firearm he had a shirt over his firearm.
And how did you notice that?
Just the outline, just something we're trained to do. We're trained to observe people, their mannerisms, and I noticed that there was a butt of a firearm sticking from his shirt.
Okay, and approximately when was that?
Sometime in 2016, February, March. if I have to take a guess.
Okay. No need to guess, but if that's your best approximation, that's
Yes,
fine.
it is,
So sometime in 2016.
correct.
Did you have any conversations with Mr. Topolsky at that point?
I did. I approached him, I advised him that he couldn't carry his firearm. There was a workplace policy in place in regards to that.
And are you referring to the town's workplace violence policy?
Yes, that was signed by the Board of Selectmen at the time, December of 2013, and it was forwarded to all employees by then Chief Mazik on Saturday, December 13th, 2013.
Okay. And so after, just to recount your testimony, you said you had a conversation with Mr. Topolsky and advised him of the policy?
Correct, I
And-
told, yes.
And what was his response to that?
He was not aware of it.
And what occurred next after that
Our
conversation?
conversation ended and that was it.
And after that point, did he continue wearing a firearm?
Yes,
Did you have a conversation with him after that point when you noticed that he was still wearing a firearm?
I did.
And what did you say to him, and what did he say in response?
I advised him, I said, didn't I talk to you about the firearm, carrying the firearm? And his response to me was that he was allowed to carry it by Chief Goulden.
Okay, and what was your response to that?
I said, okay, and that was it. I wasn't going to question the chief, so I didn't say anything.
And approximately, I know you don't recall the exact date, but approximately when did that second conversation occur?
I don't recall.
Was it, fair to say that Chief Goulden was still serving as the chief at that time?
Correct.
Was it before or after the Christmas of 2016? Do you recall?
May have been some time in August.
Okay, so fall,
Correct.
late summer, early fall.
Correct.
After that point, did you have any conversations with Chief Goulden regarding Mr. Topolsky?
No.
Okay, Mr. Seniag, I appreciate your testimony. I don't have any further questions.
Direct.
Yeah, we'll have some, Attorney Akerson will have a chance to cross-examine.
Okay.
Hi, we've not met. I'm Mike Akerson. I'm a simple lawyer from Worcester. I do have some questions for you, though.
Yes, sir.
You work at Shirley PD now as the acting chief?
Correct.
How's that been going?
It's not easy.
Tough job, I agree. A lot of moving parts. Let me ask you a couple of questions. This workplace violence policy you mentioned, you received a copy of that?
Yes.
Did you have to sign for it?
Yes, we had to respond via email to then Chief Mazik at the time.
So the practice at 2013 was that Chief Mazik would send out a policy, or let's make it more real, this policy, and you reply saying, receive this, chief?
Yes, well, it was twofold. He sent an email, you responding, and then the second part was they provided a copy in each employee's mailboxes, and there was also another copy in a binder that we have at the police station that would include any updated policies.
And do you know if the new employees, since that date in December of 2013, when the policy was enacted, do you know if the new employees received that workplace policy?
I don't know that.
Okay. I've just got a few more questions. I'm not going to keep you here all day. When Dispatcher Topolsky told you, or you learned that he had, because of your observation skills, learned that he had a concealed weapon under his shirt, did you inform Chief Goulden about that?
No.
Why not?
I'm a sergeant. I usually address a lot of stuff with my subordinates. It doesn't have to go to the chief.
Okay. Did you have any discussions with the chief about the workplace violence policy? No. Okay. Did you write up Dispatcher Topolsky?
No, I didn't write him up.
Let me finish. Did you write Dispatcher Topolsky up in any way for him violating the town's workplace policy?
I gave him a notice advising him of the policy.
Verbal?
No, I gave him a written notice advising him of the workplace policy, and I told him to cease and desist from carrying his firearm.
Okay. But you as a sergeant, you took care of it, so it didn't get to the chief's level?
This was, I did this under acting chief. I didn't do this as a sergeant.
Well, as a sergeant, you also.
I addressed them verbally.
Okay, let's take a step back.
Okay.
As sergeant for the Shirley PD, you did speak with Dispatcher Topolsky about him carrying a weapon in the dispatch area?
Correct.
Okay. And because you said you observed, I think, because you were trained to observe and you saw the butt of the gun under his shirt, right?
Correct.
Okay. In that point, you gave Dispatcher Topolsky a verbal warning or counseling?
It was a verbal warning. I advised them of the policy.
Okay. And you told him no more?
I said, yeah, advise them of the policy so you can't carry a firearm.
Okay. And let me just, because this was unclear, when was your second interaction with Dispatcher Topolsky when he had a sidearm on him?
I know the exact date, may have been a week or two after.
Refresh your memory if I can. The report at page 10 by Mr. White says, on or about March 14th, 2017, Acting Chief Santiago, that'll be you, again observed Topolsky was wearing a sidearm. Is that
What date was that?
March 14th of 2017? That's what Topolsky told the investigator.
That's when I addressed them, correct. And that's when I provided him with a copy of that.
Okay, just so we're clear, as Acting Chief you did?
Yes.
Okay. If you learn that under the policy, if you learn that a subordinate employee is carrying a gun in violation of the policy, should you do something?
Yes, I did. I provided him a copy of it, and I told him to cease and desist carrying his weapon.
Let's flip that around. If you didn't know that a subordinate employee was carrying a weapon, would you discipline him?
If I didn't know about the policy,
Yeah.
if there was no policy in place, no, I would say no.
Okay. And if you didn't know he had a gun on him, you couldn't discipline him because you didn't know, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good day.
Anything further, Counselor?
No, that's it. I appreciate it. Just a few clarifying points on that issue. Mr. Topolsky, as Attorney Akers had noted, was interviewed by Paul White. A copy of that transcript will be marked as Exhibit number 8.
We didn't get any of this, Tim.
Yep.
We
Yeah, no.
didn't get any?
That's fine.
Oh,
We'll address it. I'm just going to direct everyone's attention to page 5 of 7 of this transcript. This was based on this is the interaction in, I believe, the fall of 2016 between the Chief Goulden, and Mr. Topolsky. According to Mr. Topolsky, the chief said that I was a police officer and legally with my Class A license able to carry, and that he would support me carrying my firearm on duty, being a police officer. On duty, meaning that you were a dispatcher at Shirley PD? Answer, that's correct. Do you remember when this conversation took place? That's the question. Answer, it was a couple months after Sergeant Santiago had mentioned to me that there was a policy in place. So I believe that, that supports Acting Chief Santiago's contention that he addressed Mr. Topolsky's wearing the firearm. Some point thereafter, there was a conversation between the chief and Mr. Topolsky in which it appears that Chief Goulden said that he was in fact permitted to carry the firearm while on duty. Just one further point here, and then I'll rest for the moment. On June 23rd, 2016, Chief Goulden received a letter of counseling, order to attend mandatory training. That was made part of his personnel file. I'm submitting this to you. That was based on investigation that was conducted by Gene Hartel concerning allegations of workplace harassment and retaliation advanced by Sergeant Alfreda Cromwell. I'd like to make this exhibit number 9 of the record. So, for the moment, that's all the evidence I'm going to present. I think the White report is very clear and very thorough. As you know, he interviewed every possible witness, spoke to a number of individuals, looked at a number of documentary evidence, and he found, number one, that the chief acted somewhat inappropriately, very inappropriately for that matter, concerning the recall petition. This is a big deal in the sense that it shows very poor judgment on behalf of Chief Goulden by directing a subordinate employee who really has no choice in the matter, has to comply with this directive, and puts him right in the middle of a political process that's obviously a very hot button issue in town. That put Officer Lange in a very difficult position. And for that matter, that was the basis for the finding that he showed very poor professional judgment on that occasion. With respect to the allegation that he improperly allowed Chief Goulden that he allowed Mr. Topolsky to carry a firearm while on duty, this is, I believe, supported by Sergeant Santiago's statement earlier that he had a conversation with Mr. Topolsky and informed him of the policy. Even after that conversation, when there was a conversation between Mr. Goulden and Mr. Topolsky, the chief, knowing that there was potentially a policy out there that prevented weapons in the workplace, took no action to investigate. So even if you credit his position that he was not aware of the policy, he was not provided with a copy of it at the time of his hiring, there was at least enough evidence that he was aware of a potential issue, and he took no action to investigate. For that reason, I think that evidence supports the finding of exercising poor judgment as well as the other neglect of duty and incompetence as set forth in the notice that was provided to Chief Goulden. At this point, I'll invite the Board of Selectmen to ask any questions that they may have.
I've got one. Chief.
Sir, we have a whole case.
No, they can ask questions.
I thought you meant of you as a witness. Is that what you meant? I thought you wanted the board to ask them if they had any questions of you and your
Mr.
witness
Capucci, you're the
testimony.
chair of this
Yes.
meeting. How would you like to proceed?
I would like to let the selectmen ask the questions that they have for the chief and through his counsel.
I have an opening, if I may, Mr. Capucci.
Right, but we'll proceed with this first and...
Yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and...
Mr. Wilson?
Chief, reference the questions on Paul Topolsky.
Yes.
Carrying the firearm. So you've been a police officer in several other agencies besides Shirley, I believe, 2 other agencies in New Hampshire. So you obviously interacted with dispatchers and had dispatchers either under your direct control as chief or working with you as fellow employees. So in either of those 2 agencies, which, correct me if I'm wrong, would be Brookline? Police?
Actually, Hollis Brookline shared
Hall-
dispatch.
Okay, Hollis Brookline had dispatch, and then the other agency was that
I work for Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department. I also work for the Pelham, New Hampshire Police Department.
So in any of those agencies, was it accepted practice that dispatchers that interacted with the public would carry firearms?
I believe the only one I'm aware of is on occasion at Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, not the two police agencies.
Did they meet as part of their duty? Did they meet and greet, take initial complaints at the door, like your dispatchers do?
On occasion, yes.
That would be it. Thank you, Chief.
Ms. Hawes?
So, in your contract, item number 10 states the chief shall issue orders, rules, regulations, policies, and procedures, and assign shifts, duties to the police and communications personnel. So, if you are issuing policies, if you are issuing procedures, would it not be your duty to know the policies that are in place?
The policies that I would issue, I would have knowledge of because I would draft them and I would give them to the patrol and they would acknowledge receipt of them.
But would you not be in charge of making sure that the policies of the town were followed?
If I was provided a copy, I was never provided a copy.
But in your incoming package, you were told that the policies were available on request. Did you request them?
I was not told that.
It was in a packet, it was in your incoming package. It was part of a notice that you had that the town did have policies and procedures and that they were yours upon request.
I very respectfully say I never saw that.
You did sign papers that were in that packet, though it's in your personnel file.
I respectfully obtained a copy of my personnel file prior to going on administrative leave. There's nothing in my personnel file to indicate that I signed for anything other than my medical benefits, anything that has to do with payroll, nothing regarding policy procedures.
And there was also in there a copy of, give me a minute to find it.
There was two policies that I was required to complete when I first got hired, the mass ethics and the acceptable use of technology.
You don't think it's your duty and responsibility as a police officer and as a department head to know the policies and procedures of the town? And if you don't know them, do you believe it's not your duty to find them?
If I have the reason to look for a policy that I knew about, I would go look for it if I didn't have it. That wasn't the situation here.
Again, I'm going to say it again. Do you believe, as a department head, it is your duty and responsibility to know the policies and procedures of the town?
If I was aware of them, I should be knowledgeable of them, yes.
You keep putting it the if.
I can't be aware of something that I have no possession or no knowledge of. I'm not a mind reader.
I'm asking you if you should know, if you should go looking for them. As a department head, is it your responsibility to look for the policies and procedures of the town and look through all of them?
If I need to, then I would.
So you only say if you need to, otherwise you didn't have to look at them?
90% of police work deals with policy and procedures within the police department. That's what I'm accustomed to. If the town provided me, and I can tell you that they have not provided the latest new employees a copy of this either. They're not aware of this. So I'm not only unique. No new employee since I was hired has been given that book.
Would that be the duty and responsibility of the department head?
If I had knowledge of it, yes.
You keep saying, if I had knowledge.
That's my answer, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, but you don't believe as a department head that you should be the one that has to go looking for this to make sure that all of your employees are aware?
I would have to have knowledge of what I'm looking for. If I don't know they exist, I don't know what I'd be looking for.
Did
And if
you
I had
meet
it-
with Ms. Garvin daily? Did you ever mention anything like that to Ms. Garvin?
We never had any real discussions about town policies. All the policies I discussed with Ms. Garvin were specifically related to the police department.
And when the selectmen hired you at that time, they didn't mention policies and procedures of the town?
No, no,
And it's not in anything you saw anywhere?
never.
No.
Check my personnel file.
I did.
Okay.
And I did find something in there that mentioned it.
Okay.
I found it part of the packet that you were handed, and it was on the packet that you were handed. Now, whether you signed it, you didn't sign it, but it was part of the packet that you were handed when you were hired. And it did mention knowing the policies and procedures of the town, and that they would be available to you upon request.
Mr. Wilson? Is that-
I'm good with that.
Ms. Hawes?
I'm all set.
Chief, question on the violation in which potential violation in which Officer Lang took the photographs of the people on the list in the hardware store. Well, then he took that list and he gave it to you, is that correct?
Well, he first of all didn't take a picture of a list. He took a picture of the top portion of the petition. I guess the request, the email that I received asked for a number that was at the top of a petition. Not signatures, it was a number at the top of a petition. Officer Lange took a picture of the top of the petition, whatever number, identifying number was on the top of that, forwarded to me. I never looked, I sent it directly to the person that requested it.
Who requested it?
It came from the Dumont residence. I received an email specifically from Brian Dumont.
To get a list?
He made a request, if I knew anybody that lived in town that would be willing to go to the hardware store. I guess this was posted in a public place, and if I knew anybody that'd be willing to take a photograph of the petition number at the top of the petition.
I'm only asking you that because you said when you were interviewed, that you were asked to do it by Selectman Dumont and Selectman Prescott, correct?
I had discussions with them as well, but I received a specific email from Mr. Dumont.
Okay. And then you talked about you forwarded the list to who?
I forwarded the pictures to Mr. Dumont, Brian Dumont.
Right. But you didn't give it to Mr. Prescott or Mrs.
No.
Dumont? Okay. Even though you say in here that it was them that requested it?
I had a discussion with them when the pre-call process started, because they were explaining to me what the process was and how it worked.
Can I just ask, why would you do that?
I was interested,
Interested in what?
what the recall process was. I've never been experienced in one before, in working in the town.
And the other question I had, based on what Mrs. Haas asked you, Miss Haas, I'm sorry, one of the things that I looked at in the report was when you talked to Mr. Topolsky about his wanting to carry a firearm. You said you never looked at his license. Did you ever look at his license? You said you didn't, but did you look at it?
I never physically looked at Mr. Topolsky's license. We had a discussion about it, but I never had him.
I only find it interesting because nobody looked at it. And to this day, and I'm sure he hasn't, but no one could say they looked at the license. I found that odd, that's all. I would think if someone was carrying a weapon, you would want to know if they were licensed to do so. Is that not?
Well, I was familiar that he was
Correct.
working as an auxiliary in Leominster and that he had it as part of his job at the college.
Where did he get it from?
Is from his hometown.
Leominster?
No, Gardner.
Garden, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Allow Mr. Akerson to proceed.
Yeah, you done with your questions? You done, Miss Haas? You done?
I am for now,
You all done?
for now.
Okay, and I'm done, so we will go, Counselor, you may proceed.
Thank you. I'm going to stand, if I may.
Sure.
Sitting's not good for too long. Now, Chief Goulden, longtime police chief. I've known him for a number of years. He does the right thing. Been on administrative leave since February 27th of 2017. March, April, May, so 3+ months he's been sitting down waiting for this. And this is the procedure he gets. He received the documents, as I indicated earlier, on Friday to come here now. And he didn't know about any of these charges until sometime in May. Ms. Haas, I know you asked that question earlier. He didn't know about it until sometime in May. I didn't know there were transcripts prepared of the various testimony. All I received was Mr. White's report, and that's all we're working off of, because that's all we received. But it appears there's more documents, testimony, evidence, recordings out there that I don't have. I understand the board has them. But 3 months now, he's been sitting there waiting to figure out what's going on with my life. Where do I go from here? What do I do? How do I come back and mend this department? What can I do? How can I get along with the players in town, the board members? Despite being a longtime seasoned police officer, he's still not jaded. He still believes he can work things out. That's from him to me. Now, we talked about 2 charges that were brought here today. There were actually 7 charges that were investigated by Mr. White. And I do think I need to bring them to life and then let you know that Mr. White sunk them. One was that he made false statements in a district court hearing regarding a Commonwealth versus Begun. Mr. White investigated that and found, no, that's not the case. Second thing was that he made a false statement under oath during an unemployment hearing for an Elfreda Cromwell, who provided documents to Mr. White. He was found, that was not to be the case. He was not found to make any untruthful statements. There are a couple of allegations that as chief of police, he didn't do the right thing regarding a couple of excessive force claims, that he didn't do the right thing. Looked into it by Mr. White, who found, yeah, actually, he did do the right thing as chief of police. So we're left now with 2 charges. 2. First one I want to address is one that's been raised by Mr. Zessin earlier, was regarding him asking someone that he works with in a non-duty context, non-Shirley police context, not in uniform, off the clock, to see if he'd take a picture of a petition, the right-hand corner where it has a number. I need to make something crystal clear based on what I have, which is Mr. White's report. I'm going to read and quote verbatim from page 8, first large paragraph. Lange explained that he was asked by Chief Goulden to obtain some photographs of the petition, specifically the numbers on the top corners of the petition pages. Asked. Chief is charged herewith by the Board of Selectmen in the letter I'm reading from Mr. Capucci, dated Friday. It says that you ordered a subordinate officer to take photographs of a petition.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? You said page 8 of what, sir?
The report, Mr. White's report.
Mr. White's report.
Right, from, his report.
Mr. White's report, that's the only thing I have, sir.
Oh, no, that's okay, I just want to know okay, go ahead.
The charge is that Chief ordered a subordinate officer to take photographs of a petition. The finding by Mr. White is that Lang explained that he was asked by Chief. He was asked. Not ordered, not commanded, not dictated, not directed. Asked. Lang said, sure. Lang just, to Mr. White, the investigator, he said simply, and I don't think this has been mentioned yet today by anybody, I will now, Lange explained that he performed the task while he was in civilian clothing, not on duty for the department. That's not me. That's not the chief. That's Lange. He asked me. I said I'd do it. He didn't do it on town climb. He didn't have his uniform, badge, go in with a gun, a cruiser, on the clock. So right at the get-go, that charge falls away when the word asked is actually addressed, because that's what it says. The town's charge in the investigation, although it's not on the notice of hearing, but one of the scope of review of Mr. White was that based on the chief's actions, it resulted in harassment of several individuals who signed the recall petition. That was what Mr. White was investigating too, and his finding was clearly, he found no such harassment. Again, page 9 of Mr. White's report. The Goulden concerning the issue raised about citizens being harassed as a result of these actions. No known citizens have been identified that they were harassed. That's not me, that's Mr. White. That charge falls by the wayside. He was not ordered. Lange was not ordered. That's undisputed. Chief Goulden, David Lange, asked. No harassment by anybody. Part of the reason that Chief asked David Lange was because he had a house. I don't know if it was a new house or an old house or under construction, but he would frequently go to the hardware store and to get some paint, some tarps, some screws. There's no evidence that's been presented in Mr. White's report that the chief did this while this request, this ask of Lange, while he was in uniform, in his duty belt, in his cruiser, in the station. No evidence of that. You need to make those conceptual jumps. You gotta take the word ordered, get rid of that, and insert the word ask in order to find against the chief. Now, I want to talk about the second charge that's been raised here today. Specifically, this is the chief's, let me read this so I get it right. The issue is whether the chief violated the town's workplace violence policy by knowingly permitting a civilian dispatcher to possess a firearm in a town building. Now, there's been some discussion so far about rules and policies. If the chief is not given the rule, doesn't know about it, how can he be held to that standard? And that's undisputed. That's Mr. White saying that. Mr. White says he didn't have it. That's all the information he found in his investigation. Could he have known it? In an ideal world, sure. A lot of things could have been known, but the question is, did he know? And the other issue is, did he know that he was wearing a gun? Apparently, all the officers in the PD are not too observant. The sergeants, the patrolmen, the other dispatchers, because none of them picked up on the fact for a period of time that Dispatcher Topolsky had a weapon under his shirt. Now, I'm looking at Mr. White's report, and I'd like to just read. It indicates on page 10 of White's report that Topolsky followed the protocol until he later had an off-the-cuff discussion with Chief Goulden. Off-the-cuff discussion. I didn't make that up. I'm off-the-cuffs in quotes. What does that mean, off-the-cuff? Generalized? Vague, informal discussion with the chief about that. You're trying to hold him to a standard that he should have known that there was a policy in place, and then he should have known that Topolsky was in fact wearing the gun. Nobody in the PD knew it till Santiago saw a bulge one day. I sat in on the chief's interview with Paul White. I sat there and I listened to the story. I heard what the questions were. That's the first time the chief sat there with White, and the chief goes, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what the allegations are. So he, at that point, gave a document which had a list of some of the allegations or charges. Don't know who crafted them, don't know who the complaining witness is, but he had a piece of paper. I wonder whose fingers did the typing. I don't know. I sat there, I heard the chief, and I looked at him, and I watched him tell Mr. White what happened. He answered the questions that he could answer, directly, forthrightly. A couple other things I think important to bring up here. It's not my say-so to get anybody else in trouble, but you know, Topolsky had the gun in violation of the policy. Acting Chief Santiago stood right here, and he said that, no, he didn't discipline him at all, didn't write him up, didn't have an investigation or a hearing in front of the Board of Selectmen. Santiago chose not to tell the chief something he knew. That's why I can't answer you. But these are the two charges you're talking about here. One is a dispatcher wearing a gun in violation of a policy the chief didn't know, and the chief didn't know he actually had the gun on him. That's one. Second one is what we talked about before, charges he ordered it. The only evidence that presented from White's report is that he was asked. Those are the two charges. Are those the charges this board, are those the two charges that this board is going to use to try and take a man's career, his livelihood? Two charges. I don't know what it cost it took to get to those charges, but where time, money, what I now know is transcribing of statements, which I didn't know about till today.
Did you know they were being recorded?
I got it Friday afternoon.
Did you know they were being?
I read in the report Friday afternoon, ma'am, yeah, that some of them said that they were audio, yes.
It says in every one of those that everybody was notified that everything was being recorded when the interviews began. I'm sorry to interrupt you, I'm just saying
Okay.
that when you were there, every single time he began the conversation, he stated, and it states in the transcript, that things were being recorded.
I was there, ma'am.
Yeah, so you knew that, and
Can
you
I
knew
make a
that.
statement, I think a statement of clarification? The day I was interviewed, I had no idea who else was interviewed prior to me or after me. So we wouldn't have known who was being, who had audio recorded.
But you knew you were being recorded.
I knew that my interview was recorded, yes, I was
Okay,
there.
that's all I
The
knew.
investigator didn't share with us who was being interviewed or the process he used for any of them, none of them.
Is it normal for an investigator to notify you who's being interviewed?
Is it normal?
Would they normally do that?
Yes, sometimes that happens. in terms of-
Sometimes, but it's not,
Clarify.
it's not a
Clarify.
constant. Yeah,
Every investigator has a mode in operation, and
Okay,
depending on the witnesses. What I'm saying is, what's the cost involved in this? Because of the fact that there's a transcript of various people who actually made statements for these two charges here. All of the untruthful charges that were alleged against Chief Goulden are gone. So we're left with these two charges, and the question I was trying to debate was, what's the cost involved? What's the benefit you get? And the third thing is, what do you do to a man? Chief chose to have this in public session, and I'm going to tell you why. Because until recently, we didn't know, he didn't know why he was out on administrative leave, what the issue is. A lot of rumors have been swirling around about what it is he did, who he shot, who he killed, what he did wrong. There's an old expression, an old lawyer I worked with named Ed Reardon used to say that the denial never catches up to the accusation. For 3 months, he sat home wondering what's going on here, and everybody in town wondering what's going on here. So I think today's the day for this board to finally clear the air of this, get beyond this, put the chief back to work so that he can singularly continue his career in law enforcement. There are about 14 officers here from the Shirley PD, all of whom signed acknowledgement supporting Chief Goulden as a chief, as a man, and that he can continue to work here. They're sitting here. That doesn't happen often, and I'll tell you why. Retaliation. They're sitting here. I applaud them. I praise them for sitting here, showing their support for the chief, showing that this gentleman can go back to the police department and continue to serve as chief of police.
Personally, I would hope that they're here because they support the town of Shirley, not any one individual.
Well, this proceeding unfortunately is about, Ms. Haas, about Chief Goulden. He's the one who received the notice to come here.
I'm just letting you know for your statement there.
Yeah.
I personally feel that they don't work for Chief Goulden, they work for the town of Shirley, and
But-
that's where their support belongs.
And their support belongs in a forum today where Chief Goulden is potentially going to be sanctioned by this board, if my pulse is correct. And they're here to show the support of him because he was the one who was asked to be here. May I take one moment, please? There it is. I'd just like to take a moment to summarize where we are as a board, as a community, as a police department. I mentioned at the beginning, a man who served his various police departments capably and competently. The town has spent a lot of money on this. I don't know what Mr. White charges per hour or per investigation, but I know he's very seasoned, if you will, and therefore I'm expecting attendant to that to be a high charge. The police department needs a rudder now. This is your rudder. And I hope you, in fair-mindedness, understand that all the time and money spent on this, we're left with two charges, which I've discussed at length here today. And the reality is, having done my job representing public officials, which includes chiefs and patrolmen and some board of selectmen in the past, these charges are small in the scheme of how police departments work or how employer-employee relationships work. And I hope you all, with fair-mindedness, can get beyond any political swirl that may be swimming in this town so you can do the right thing here. Let's put this guy back to work. Thank you.
Counsel?
Does the board have any questions for Attorney Akerson or Chief Goulden?
Chief, I have, if I may, would you want to ask any questions? No. Ms. Haas?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, my question was, we talked about the list, and what was interesting about the list was there is evidence here that they took pictures of the list, and they had names on the pictures. So, I don't, your comment was they took the page number, but on those pages, there were lists, and you even talked about that. So I just wanted to bring that back to your attention, that you talked about, you forwarded those over, but you didn't know why you were doing it, or why they wanted it, you just forwarded it to them. Because, as a result of that, there's a statement in there, they started to see people on that list. They went to their house. So there was evidence that they saw the names on the list, and I still ask you, because what was the purpose of it? I don't know if you know that, but...
The email said,
Pardon?
the email that I received said that the identifier number on the top of the petition is
Okay.
what they wanted.
But they had names on it, obviously.
I didn't even really study the pictures. As soon as I got on my forward, I deleted them right after I sent them. I had no reason to keep them.
No, I saw you deliver them, yeah, okay, all right. Okay.
You didn't think that was odd? You thought that, you believed that as the chief of police, even though you were not on duty, that you could ask a subordinate officer to, when he was not on duty, to go take photos, and you didn't think that as his supervisor, as his boss, as the chief of police in the town of Shirley, that asking an officer in your department to do something just because he lived in Shirley, and I do know there were other people in the town that lived in Shirley, you didn't think that there was anything wrong with asking him doing that. You believed that it was all right for you to do it because you didn't do it while you were on duty. But you are the chief of police in Shirley. You're on duty 24/7. It's in your contract. Your contract says you are on duty, on call 24/7. So when you ask that officer, who was a reserve officer, to do something, you asked him as the chief of police. It doesn't matter if you weren't in uniform. You asked him as the chief of police. And that's what so if he, as an officer, hears from his chief, and maybe he did it to be nice, and maybe he did it because you asked him, because you were his boss, and you put him in a position that said he can't say no because you're his boss. Whether it be right, whether it be wrong, that's the position you put him in. And I'm sorry, that's how I have to look at it. I can't look at it as you were off duty, that you did something off duty. I don't understand why you would, to me, I can't wrap my head around that. I can't wrap my head around the fact that you, as the chief of police, as a police officer, who is in the contract, it's, your duties and your responsibilities that you are 24/7, that you would ask somebody that. It makes no sense to me. And I think it's unfair to the officer for you to have even approached him and asked him just because he lived there. Your response should have been, no, this is a political matter. I'm not involved. It was unfair to that officer.
Any further questions?
You want a summary statement from the selectmen or anything, or before they vote, or?
No, well, so, at this point, do the selectmen have any further questions?
No, other than the fact that I agree with Mrs. Haas in the sense that the list itself, Chief, was so questionable. Right now, the whole country's in a turmoil. Congress, the Senate, and the Congress are looking at whether the President of the United States interfered in an election. People can't interfere in elections, and there seems to be an indication that that list was an attempt to interfere in the election. I think when you ask for that list, I agree that you put the officer on the spot. I don't think it should have been done, but I just, to me, it's not an issue that you can just drop off. I just can't see that.
Can I mention one other thing?
Sure.
Too? I'm sorry if I'm being a pain, but, so the letter of counseling order to attend mandatory training that was put into your file, based on the safety and respect the report. All right, and I know you had comments back to it on both sides, but you did agree to do this. What did you do as the chief of police to move this forward and to make sure that the police department, because the letter says the selectman expects you to lead the department through your actions and behaviors. And that's in the letter, and that's the letter that's in your file that's dated June 23rd, 2016. So do you think as a police officer, in the issue with the recall petitions, but did you do anything as far as bringing forward the mandatory training for all police officers? Did you do anything? Because you were required to attend it as well.
Well, my response to that is the town would budgeted money for that. That was supposed to be set up through Ms. Garvin's office for me and I believe some other employees. You'll have to ask Ms. Garvin why the money wasn't presented. That was for money allotted for people in the police department to attend the training.
Did you go to see Ms. Garvin about it?
We had discussions about it, yes we did.
And nothing came out of it?
I was told that they were waiting because of the financial issues going on in town and they were holding off because of money issues.
Is that true?
So, we had to wait till town meeting in November to get it funded, that is correct. After that, we kept setting up meetings with, a trainer, and things just kind of kept on happening. I think we actually had, a training set up, and then the chief was put out on admin leave. I did meet with the trainer briefly. Given some of the concerns that were going on at the department, we didn't feel training at that point, was going to work out. I had subsequent conversations, I believe, with Selectman Wilson in regards to it, and we were waiting to see how this proceeding ended to then continue with the training.
So in January and February, there was discussion about training?
Yes, multiple
And
times.
you brought it to the board?
Yes, multiple times. We were trying to schedule, but there was something in January that kind of kept distracting us.
And just one last point with regard to the photographs that were taken of the recall petition. It's I believe, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's the chief's testimony that he deleted the photographs immediately after sending them to Mr. Dumont, is that correct?
Yes.
And with respect to former Officer Lange, he would not provide those photographs to the investigator, and we have no, unfortunately, Mr. White had no subpoena power, so we could not compel the production of those photographs. So we don't have actual proof of it, only the admission from the chief that they were in fact taken and forwarded to Mr. Dumont.
So Mr. Dumont has them?
Mr. Dumont still has them, apparently.
Okay. Is there any discussion about the evidence that the selectmen have heard tonight?
Mrs. Huss? Mrs. Huss?
To me?
No? Jim?
Yes, just a statement more than anything, Mr. Chairman. Let's not kid ourselves, folks. This goes back 2 years. There's been politics involved in this town, the recall, administration of the police department. This has gone on for several years now, and basically I feel the people in town have not received quality services because everybody has been so entwined in politics in this town and what's going on with the Board of Selectmen and what's going on with the police department. And it seems to me that since Chief Goulden was named in August of 2014, that almost immediately afterward there became additional problems again. I feel my fellow board members will disagree with me that Chief Goulden was not afforded due process, that he should have been afforded a right to an executive session hearing with us before we even conducted this investigation. I voted against putting him on administrative leave for that fact. I don't think he should have been put out for it, and I believe this tonight, the fact that he didn't have all the evidence, the transcripts or whatever, just furthers my objection that he was not afforded a right for due process. I look at, I've a 30-year career as a police officer, and I've seen a lot other police officers commit actual crimes where there'd be a monetary fine or potential jail sentence, and they retain their jobs. I look at these charges against the chief as high crimes or misdemeanors, and the chief's been very candid, and from my reading of the statements, that there were mistakes made, but I feel they fall into the misdemeanor category. I don't believe the evidence here supports termination of the chief. However, I do feel that there were some errors in judgment. We all live in an imperfect world, and we have room for improvement. I think that the chief should have some form of progressive discipline that is not rises to the level of termination, but is not falling as far back as a written censure. There should be something in the middle with something over his head. I don't think that the charges that are produced tonight warrant his termination. Thank you.
Mrs. Huss?
So, and I, in one way, I would love to say that everything could be rosy. My issue here is I have to look out for the town of Shirley. My issue is not with the chief, it's with the town of Shirley and what we do for making the town of Shirley a better place. One of my issues is that I don't know how effective the chief can be in the future. You might have 15 officers that are sitting here right now, but 15 officers change. The turnover in the police department, in the dispatchers, and everything else has been fairly consistent. Most of the officers are new, and they don't know any other chief. I would, because you didn't have the transcripts, I don't believe tonight would be the night to make a decision, and I know that will make some people very upset, but I believe you should be allowed the time to look at the transcripts from all the interviews and go from there. But in reality, I do not believe that in the town of Shirley, you have broken many, many, many bridges. And not with the officers, and most of the officers don't live in town, but with the people who do live in town. You have created a distrust among the people who live in this town. And Jimmy's right, it goes back 3 years. It goes back since 2000, or actually more, 2014, where the distrust is. Even in Mr. White's report, in his opening statement, he says, there have obviously been major concerns with the operations of the Shirley Police Department based upon the hiring of several independent investigative sources to examine events, actions taken, and decisions made by Chief Goulden. It's the first paragraph of the report. It says there are issues. And my decision is going to be made on that, but I will afford you the time to review what you didn't get. I wish you had gotten that. I thought you had gotten the transcripts, and I will afford you that. But it would take a lot for me to look at what's done. Like I said, you're a 24/7 police officer. It's in your contract. You ask an officer to do something, you're on duty. You ask, maybe it wasn't an order, but it was an ask. And that really, really bothers me. And to even think that it was okay to take pictures as a police officer of a recall petition on an issue that's happening in our town, that's an issue for me. If there was an issue of policies and procedures, and you saying nobody gave them to me, I was a department head. It was my duty and responsibility as the collector in the town of Shirley to make decisions based on, to go looking for that information and know that I had it. And that is your duty and responsibility as a department head. I have 28 and a half years working for the town. I'm going on 29 now as a selectman. So I know the duties and responsibilities that happen to anybody who works for the town. It's a small town. We have very little resources. We do the best we can. But it's our duties as department heads to find out what we have to do. So I will, and I believe it's the right thing to do, and I will motion to give you at least Monday.
Well, I guess the question is, when does the board want to reconvene for, assuming that that's the decision of the board tonight, when is the board able to meet next?
Well, we have to give 48 hours, no matter what.
That's right.
And truthfully, I didn't have this report for 7 weeks either, so your time and my time are the same. But I would give you at least until, Jimmy, any suggestions?
Today is the 6th. Tuesday the 6th.
Behind you. There's a calendar. Thank you.
I mean, what's the board preference?
I'm not hearing anything from them. I would say I would go Monday.
Okay.
I guess my question on it is that going to be,
Is that time?
are we going to make a decision on that date, or are we simply going to rehash this all over again?
Well, let me address that issue.
Yes.
The if the board votes tonight to adjourn and meet again next week, Monday, the purpose of it will be to address any issues that were not addressed tonight, address any questions or concerns Attorney Akerson may have with respect to any statements that were made in the transcripts to Mr. White. It's not going to be a review or rehashing of tonight's statements or evidence.
And it will be an open session, or do you have the option of doing executive session?
It will be the same procedure.
Same procedure.
Chief Goulden will have the option to have it in open session.
That, if I may, that's fine.
Good. Not
To
rehashing, but
respond.
anything
But if I could,
missed.
if we could get the transcripts, the chief and I, and take a look at them,
Sure.
and maybe the easiest thing to do, not having seen them, it's difficult to put the cart before the horse, but the easiest thing to do may be to put in a written response based on the documents.
Put in a written
A
response.
written response, yeah, so you could,
From you to
the
us.
board, I'll send it to Mr. Zessen.
That's fine. I mean, I certainly accept that. We'll still have to meet in.
I understand
open session.
that. No, I understand that, subject to your schedules and all, yes.
Yeah, sure. That's, you can submit anything you like.
Do I have to make a motion for this? And
You
does
should.
somebody have to second it?
Yes, you
So
do.
I move, Mr. Chairman, I move that we reconvene Monday evening at 7 PM in either open or executive session, according to what Chief Goulden would like to do, and to give Chief Goulden and his attorney, and I'm sorry, time to review the transcripts from the report.
Second.
Okay, and your vote, Ms. Huss?
I vote aye.
And
I
you
vote aye,
Mr. Goulden?
I vote aye, sir.
And I vote aye. Okay. I also want to compliment all of the people here in this room. You've been excellent. And we were allowed to, as you can see, conduct this fairly and give the chief and his attorney ample time to review the process. So thanks for coming, and thank you for your patience. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair.
Bobby? Yes,
Yeah.
to the 7th.
Yes.
Whatever the date
Yes.
was.
We're going to adjourn this, we're going to motion to adjourn this hearing.
This hearing, we have to go and reconvene an executive session.
I made a motion to adjourn.
Yes, for this hearing, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
go ahead.
I move to adjourn this hearing at 8:20 PM and to reconvene back upstairs in executive session in 10 minutes.
Second.
I vote aye.
Aye.
Okay,